that they can avoid those ups and downs they've had in the past. We're in to pick some bans. SK on the blue side remove Draven and Karma. Vitality take away the Ezreal and Aatrox.
I do like the both teams right now just target banning away the best AD carry champions for their two opponents. Also the Aatrox was a pick that Jenax, who joined the roster just last week, went for twice. So removing that, we'll finally get to see him on something new. And the target bans just continue to go across the board. I love this.
It's incredible seeing the Fiddlesticks banned away from Jactroll, the Evelynn taken away from Selfmade, removing some of those more comfortable but also newer champions in these guys' pools.
Does leave open some big power picks, though. Yuumi is not something that we often get to see, but Dreams will be the one to pick it up. Now, I'm already going to say, Poppy support is what I'm immediately thinking for Vitality. It's something that once again got buffed on 9:15. Poppy just continues to get these small buffs. And I think that it's something that Jactroll has played in the past. I think someone played it into him when he played Yuumi himself, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him bring it out.
Look, I have to say, I just played Poppy support against Yuumi yesterday. That is not fair for Yuumi. If you leave your ally, you will instantly go ahead and die, but it seems like they might want to go for the Xayah Rakan instead. Of course, they can wait on that Rakan lock-in until their third option
Jactroll never plays Rakan, though.
He played it like last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he's played it once, has one win on it, went 0-3-7 in that game. At the moment, though, Vitality have got the Xayah and the Sylas, who can, of course, go jungle or towards one of the solo lanes. SK say, okay, Lucian, Yuumi is a very, very, very strong bottom lane, so we'll take that off the board. And now, looking perhaps towards the Mordekaiser, although he hasn't had too much success in the LEC.
Looks like we're going to go back to the Corki. No real surprises. It's still very strong on the current patch, unless I play it, in which case Ender experienced that. Wasn't too fun. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an Azir come out from the likes of Jiizuke, something that he does like to play himself, something that he's pretty confident on. I think is good into the matchup as well.
Could also be the Tristana that Jiizuke has really liked to go for. You know, in these past few weeks, when we've seen Vitality on a very big resurgence, it's actually less about the Azir for Jiizuke. It's much more about these marksman picks in the mid lane. The Corki is a favorite of his, and he was the first person to actually bring out and really go for multiple times this Tristana in the mid lane and really pilot it to great success.
And they already have the Sylas, so AP damage is compensated for. They can, of course, put the Sylas top, mid, and jungle. We've been seeing it a lot all over the place over in the LCK. But it looks like the Vitality will round out their first half with the Rakan. So excited to see Jactroll once again on this pick. I do think that Xayah Rakan is currently the strongest 2v2 in the current meta. Even though I would give a slight advantage to Yuumi Lucian in the early laning phase, I feel like that at all stages of play, Xayah Rakan is just a very strong duo.
Yeah, there's also a lot of kill threat with that 2v2 if you do bring your jungler down. The Xayah Rakan CC lockup when you're just trying to find out one member is definitely something you can try to look for, especially post level 6 for a jungler like Mowgli.
Well, we'll see if Vitality are able to utilize that bot lane pressure. Attila and Jactroll have stepped up in the second half of the split. Here, Vitality banning out the Gnar. Gragas removed by SK, perhaps thinking that the jungle pick's still available for Mowgli if he wanted it. And we'll see where the final ban goes here from Vitality. It's another jungler. Skarner taken away from Selfmade, but Sejuani is still available.
Yeah, Selfmade's a really difficult jungler to ban out because he hasn't played any champion more than 2 times so far this split. He'll pick stuff like the Evelynn, like the Vi. He does have very unique picks that he can go into depending on what he thinks is going to be good in any specific game. So even though we do see the Skarner ban taken away from him, he still has a lot to go for.
Seeing 2 jungle bans from SK, though, means that this Sylas probably isn't going to go towards the jungle, or at least SK don't expect it to.
So I think that when I saw the Gnar ban, that to me indicated that the Sylas was actually going to go top lane, because why else would you ban that champion unless they consider it to be a safe blind? Because of course Vitality have the counter pick. Heavily suggests the Sylas was going to go top. SK read the same play. That's why they chose to ban away these junglers. That's now going to put Mowgli onto this Lee Sin. Big comfort pick of his. I think he had a great performance on it against G2 last week. And I do think that for Vitality, it now gives them the counter pick in the mid lane, which we assume will be the Tristana.
Excellent. I love to see this from Selfmade. I'm sure we all have fond memories of Selfmade's Rek'Sai in the spring split, but this is a really good matchup for the Rek'Sai. You can sort of knock up the Lee Sin outside of his Q dash towards you. There's a lot of different things you can try to do here, as well as just impact the game very, very early on. This champion can definitely be quite explosive.
So we're kind of looking at top laners right now for SK Gaming. One of the safest ones would be the AD Cannon, but I feel like that they want a little bit more AP damage in their kit, so they're actually going to go for the Rumble, who did receive some very small nerfs on this patch.
Yeah, I also felt like you already had two sort of auto-attack damage dealers. If you go for a Ken and you're just really going all in on this idea, would probably be splitting you up into a much more of a full map press in terms of how you are looking to play out the game. With a pick like the Rumble, though, you do have some softer engage from range because they don't have a lot of those options themselves.
Mordekaiser is going to be the final lock here for Vitality. Could be mid, could be top, of course. Still that Sylas flex ability. I believe that is going to be moored top into the Rumble. Sylas taken mid here by Jiizuke into that Corki matchup.
So I'm not super familiar with the Rumble Mordekaiser matchup, but what I do know is that in the early laning phase, you would assume that Rumble has push. But we also know that Mordekaiser as a champion tends to be at his strongest, usually in the early to mid game stages, especially once he gets his ultimate online, his 1v1 power, and his sticking power, especially if he decides to go for, say, the Rylai's build, is actually pretty potent. So I wonder where Mowgli looks to play around, whether he'll choose to try and leverage the strong power of his 2v2 in the bot side of the map, or whether or not he'll try and look to get Cabochard ahead so that they can transition into a pretty solid mid game where I think SK's comp overall has a big advantage.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at Mowgli's pathing early on, he's going to have to play a bit protective of Jiizuke in the mid lane. Sylas is one of those champions as a melee pick that can get priority, but it can be really difficult for you sometimes when you are trying to bounce that wave off the tower. So we need to see Mowgli be protective and protect against those Rek'Sai ganks on Jiizuke.
Mowgli looking to protect his mid laner here for Vitality. If they win this game, they lock playoffs in 99.9% of remaining scenarios. Not guaranteed.
That's a lot of scenarios,
pretty
Medic.
Close. Like, that's the amount of bacteria that get killed by most hand washers. It's a very, very small amount of chance that they wouldn't make it into playoffs. But it's a long road on the other side of the map. SK have a lot to do. We'll see if they can start winning ways here against Vitality. Onto the Summoner's Rift. Only 4 games remain for both these teams, and it is so vital that they keep their winning ways going. You can see here, Vitality sitting at 7-7, have Fnatic, Schalke, and Misfits left to play. A win here would be so good for them because taking wins off Schalke and Fnatic is going to be very difficult in the next couple of weeks.
It certainly will be. In order to get a win over Vitality today, we want to see how things play out in the early game, because for me, SK have a very strong early to mid game setup with the Rumble, with the Corki, with the Lucian. They have a lot of lane power and a lot of lanes for the Rek'Sai to play around. My question comes in, Ender, you are a Rek'Sai main.
That's me.
Whenever we duo queue, it's always the Nocturne mid with the Rek'Sai jungle. And something you always complain to me about is actual lane setup in terms of gank setup. And I'm looking at these lanes and I feel like, in terms of your early pathing, do you think that he just goes for an early gank maybe on the mid lane, or does he look somewhere else?
I mean, ultimately, I think the only lane you could gank at level 3, because like if we actually look at how Rek'Sai wants to path early on, it's usually red into Krugs into Raptors.
Right.
That hits you level 3, and then you want to fight somewhere on the map. Bottom lane, it's going to be very difficult to make that happen, so I don't think that's a good option for them. Mid lane is a potential for Selfmade, rather, where he could actually, after he gets his Raptor camp, path into mid lane, or even go all the way around towards top side and come around from behind.
And one of the cool things I quite like about the potential gank in mid lane is that even though Jenax has no lane setup to assist the Rek'Sai with the gank, because you already talked about the fact that Jiizuke is melee, he naturally puts himself in a position to allow the flank to come in from Rek'Sai.
Yeah, and even if you look at this mid lane right now, Jiizuke has the push from level 1, utilizing the passive to hit level 2 faster so he can find that kind of a trade once the level 2 point comes through for him. So this wave will be in a good position for Selfmade to look for a move.
We'll see if that's what he decides to do. Currently at the Raptors that Ender predicted. Red, Krugs, Raptors, that's what he's done. Now perhaps looking for that mid lane game.
Yeah, look at where he's shading to. It's like definitely going to be a mid lane play with how he's trying to pull the Raptors over towards that red side.
But also look at the positioning of Mowgli. He's taken the exact same path, and he is very close to a counter gank in the mid lane.
Oh, Jiizuke's used the Abscondo, Abductor used as well, so maybe perhaps looking for the flash on Burrow, decides against it. Didn't know where Mowgli was lurking, he was just around the corner.
I think SK really wish that Abscond had connected there onto Jenax and they could have gotten Jiizuke to be forced to go in for that trade, but unfortunately because of Mowgli, you know, you can predict the Lee Sin starts on that top side of the map. As soon as Jiizuke runs into that top side jungle, you can never chase. Even though Selfmade could have flashed forward to try and get into range, it would not have been worth if Mowgli had just been sitting there and lying in wait.
It's one of the classic solo queue things where if a mid laner runs towards his tower, you know he's running for his life. If he runs into the river, he's running to his jungle. So you've always got to be careful of that, and I think good respect being shown from the side of it.
The Nocturne mid, he's always running into darkness.
You never run into darkness because you are the darkness.
Oh, okay.
You
sorry.
bring it to you.
I failed you, Vedius. I'm very
But you
sorry.
tried, and I respect that effort.
Thank you. So Kleptomancy on Jenax in the mid lane because, of course, that range into melee matchup, very easy to proc it, get yourself some pots of gold. Just picked up a control, a sight ward from it, and you can see a slight gold lead for SK, 400 gold ahead.
Yeah.
Mowgli looking...
Mowgli wants to land his Q over the wall. Jenax could be in trouble if this were to happen, but Jiizuke is fairly low on mana, and as soon as the minion wave shows up, it becomes much harder.
Jiizuke goes in, but the wave was there in time for Jenax. Mowgli tried to jump forward with the safeguard into Sonic Wave, but couldn't find his connection.
Looked like a bit of a communication issue there from the side of Mowgli and Jiizuke, because just as Mowgli was backing off, that's the moment with which Jiizuke went in. And I was kind of more in line with Mowgli's thinking, but the moment I saw that wave, that gank wasn't possible anymore. Whereas Jiizuke was like, no, we can make it happen. So the jungler was like, wait, what? Okay, I'll try. And then he doesn't end up pulling it off. Now both junglers heading up towards top side.
You can see how much Mowgli's trying to track Selfmade early on, though, using the Scryer's Bloom, spotting me out, both going up towards the top side at the same time.
Yeah, and what this ends up being for SK is actually a pretty big waste of time on the side of Selfmade. Notice neither of these two junglers have gone for a reset, so his bottom side camps are respawning. Both junglers now are set up for this type of a gank, and if Mowgli just waits here, they could turn this around for a win.
SK do know that Mowgli's there, because the ward will have spotted him out. Waiting around, Obliterate connects from Cabochard, but not really that much damage from the Mordekaiser as of yet.
See, it's interesting because when I saw Selfmade go top, my immediate assumption was actually he's there to cover, because there was he was in a bit of an awkward spot when there was a potential for a gank setup and a huge wave that he needed to catch. So I feel like that both junglers in that situation were just watching and waiting. But as Ender highlighted, because Mowgli started on his top side, he can now immediately go towards his Krugs. So he already has a bit of a lead in terms of his jungle clear, whereas Selfmade is now much further away from those camps, and it's going to be a little bit delayed.
Yeah, the only thing for Mowgli is that his pathing is now actually pretty awkward because he hasn't gone for a reset himself. So these camps are respawning that are, you know, same level as him. He doesn't have the extra jungle item to get through this clear, so he will probably look for a reset now and then go pick up his bot side camps, which he did not clear in that first battle through the jungle.
Oh, Jiizuke's just jumped in, and the Selfmade is here in time. Smite comes down, Jiizuke flashes away, and SK won't go for the chase any further.
Yeah, but this is a side effect of Mowgli going for the Krugs without resetting first. You know, we actually saw on that ward in the Tri-Brush, Mowgli pathing back towards his Krugs. So SK knew that. Selfmade calls, instead of immediately going for his Krugs, which would be the highest EXP, the most efficient route for himself, he comes from this mid lane ganks because he knows with 99.9% certainty that Mowgli cannot be there.
And one of the reasons we put so much focus on Mowgli is how impactful he was for Vitality in Week 7. High kills and assists at the 15-minute mark, low deaths, getting his team ahead and himself ahead in terms of gold. And this game so far, he's had some impact. He's been able to counter-gank Selfmade or be in the right position to counter-gank Selfmade a couple of times. We want to see a little bit more from Vitality's jungler.
Yeah, we would like to see more. Now, something that interesting just happened at the moment was when Crownshot resets with the Yuumi alongside him, you can very easily get that double TP back into bottom lane, so you don't actually have the ability to walk mid and make some sort of a play, whereas Jactroll coming off his reset, path immediately in towards mid, thinking maybe Selfmade comes around for a repeat gank because my mid laner doesn't have flash. Vitality were trying to look for a counterplay, SK just weren't willing to take the bait.
They certainly did not. Thank you very much, observers, for highlighting the vision that SK did have of Mowgli. Just reiterating that to Ender's point. We talked a lot about junglers, mainly because we think early jungle pathing is interesting, and we do feel that for this match in particular, it was very important. Right now, we've seen no early kills. So I'm just going to quickly take stock of like how the lanes are going right now, because a bit of trading in the bot lane. Remember what we said in draft, that Crownshot is able to have a lot of push priority in this matchup, along with Sacre having pressure up towards top. And because they're the two lanes that have that initial push, they've actually been able to build up pretty significant early game gold advantages. And this is pretty important for SK, because as they transition into the mid game, once they got those first items, that's when they'll really be at their strong point, and they'll look to try and force something.
Mowgli level 6 here, trying to get behind the SK bot lane. Selfmade is waiting around the corners. Giant's going to clear out a control ward. We'll see if Mowgli is spotted. At the moment, he remains in the darkness. Won't spot Selfmade with that. Actually, I believe he may have done.
So Selfmade has a couple of plays right now. First, he was going mid lane to help push in with Jenax, but now with Yuumi hitting level 6, there's hard CC in the bottom lane. And you look at all these control wards that have been set up on the side of SK, it's totally around this bottom lane. It's trying to get him and potentially Jenax, once he picks up the package, access into influencing this area of the map.
Also notice how much Selfmade is hanging around the mid lane as well, because Jiizuke did burn his flash earlier on, and the flash knockup is deadly from the side of a Rek'Sai. But Mowgli does land the Q. Notice how the bottom lane of SK should be able to move first, but SK don't want to risk it.
Yeah, it's a play we see a lot when you have a strong early game jungler and also a priority pushing bottom lane, is to try and get that blue buff off of respawn. Now, it is a little bit of a risky maneuver, but we saw SK as a team were communicating this. By bringing Sacre down towards the mid lane, without even having to use his teleport, they were getting ready for a potential fight. They just ended up calling it off in the end.
Bit of a risk now for the bottom lane of SK because level 6 has been hit on Jactroll and Attila. That power that you get from the dual ultimates of the Rakan and Xayah can be absolutely devastating. Mowgli's down towards this bottom side, clearing out the control ward that ended notice just a moment ago. Now, Dreams and Crownshot have their 6s as well, but if Jactroll decides to engage, it can be explosive. Mowgli just waiting in the wings, ready to come in. You can see both teams saying, okay, bot lane is the place to be right now. Mowgli's going to clear out the control ward.
Keep an eye on teleports as well. Sacre has his up along with Cabochard. Neither mid laner could join the fight, but I was keeping my eyes on that ward that just sits behind the lane in the second brush. SK had a perfect opportunity to set up a flank during the lane should Vitality actually try to commit. So I think they were poised and ready for a fight. I think Selfmade being in that position was good, and then Vitality instead choosing not to commit to it. So we're seeing a lot of setups from both these teams. We're seeing a lot of potential plays, but nothing coming to fruition yet because it feels like both teams actually have pretty solid answers. So both teams being forced to back away. The big play I really want to see is a return gank mid from Selfmade. I want to see him punish this flashless Sylas in the mid lane.
Trolling used in the bottom lane. Jactroll and Attila should be able to tank this one up. Jactroll was just acting as a little bit of a nuisance to Crownshot and Dreams, who wanted to back away.
And I agree, Vedi. I'd love to see Selfmade return to this mid lane, and I think if it's going to be a play, it has to be pretty immediate.
This is dangerous. Jactroll, what are you doing so far forward? He hasn't got his AD carry with him. Teleport will come out from Attila, but Crownshot and Dreams had a moment there to try and engage.
Yeah, they stopped the reset though from Crownshot, but really if Selfmade was going to make a play on mid, he would have had to come mid lane right about now and use that control ward that's up by that Vitality red buff to try and come through from the Jiizuke's Raptor camp, come over that wall and punish him without the flash, but the flash is going to be coming up, and that should mean any ganks in the mid lane, not really that possible.
See, Jactroll, the reason he's acting like that, the reason he's trying to stop these backs so many times is because now Attila's teleported back into the lane and has a Caulfield's Warhammer advantage over Crownshot. It's BF sword to BF sword, but Attila has that entire Caulfield's, and it means that it's so much easier for the Xayah Rakan to put some damage down on this Lucian Yuumi. Jenax had to flash away in the mid lane as Jiizuke came from that control ward, came out of darkness, and tried to catch the Corki, but at the 11-minute mark, it's about 1,000 gold lead here for SK. Bit of that's the CS advantage in the bottom lane, and in the top, bit of that's the Kleptomancy sitting on Jenax. Mowgli going in, kick back, straight into the face of Jiizuke. Selfmade trying to get away through the tunnels. Will survive to fight another day, looking for the re-engage. Straight onto Mowgli, here's Jenax, teleport coming out. Void Rush, one down. Jiizuke trying to trade it. Selfmade survives for such a long time, but here comes the counter TP. The equalizer put down, Jiizuke will fall, and now Cabochard is not in the best of spots. Caught out in the enemy jungle. He tries to take down Sacre, gets a lot of damage down to half HP.
He's in the death realm!
He's in the death realm, as you say. He had the flame spitter. Cabochard still putting the damage down, but can't land the last obliterate. And now Jenax should just be able to clean this one up. No summoners for Cabochard, no chance to survive. SK takes 3.
SK absolutely smashed Vitality inside of their own jungle. It was Vitality trying to come in here with Mowgli, contesting over the vision, where he gets this kick back on towards Selfmade and follows him in. But notice Jiizuke has to get damage down after picking up the Rek'Sai ult before he can press R. Selfmade uses his own to dodge any type of clicks coming through from that fake Rek'Sai ultimate, is able to turn that around for a couple quick kills.
And this is where we see Cabochard locking Sacre into the death realm. We don't have time, another fight.
Jiizuke is caught out. He went in thinking Jactroll was in the right position at the right time, but Crownshot was there with his TP to answer. Mowgli's actually doing Rift Herald while SK are here.
Yeah, SK can walk straight in towards the Herald Pit. It's down to 5k. It's not enough time for Mowgli to take this one out. SK are just going to be leased this objective.
Just gifted it on a silver platter. SK, the game exploded into life. They have a 3,000 gold lead. a Rift Herald, and they can use that to look to take down some of these plates.
And I was just going to say, before all that action happened, I was getting a little concerned for SK, because I do feel like with their comp, even though they had advantages, they were only small ones, and only being 1k ahead against this Vitality comp coming into mid-game, I don't think would have been enough. But then that play happens, and then all of a sudden, SK are 3k gold ahead. They're utilizing the momentum and the extra time that they have to get this Rift Herald, secure more plates for Crownshot, get me even more gold, and now SK are looking strong in this early game.
Yes, Crownshot picked up the solo plates there, so just 320 gold instantly in towards his pocket, while Jenax was also able to pick up 2 there in the mid lane, which means that SK are now really trying to jump ahead in this match, and they have very strong side laners, I do feel like, especially now with Jenax being 2-0-2. This is going to carry them into a very positive mid game where they can get pressure across the map.
And that's where their key strengths lie. I isolated it in pick and ban. We said they want to play early mid, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. They've landed the first couple of punches, and it's going to take more than that to knock Vitality onto the map. We'll see if SK can keep up this tempo.
But I think it's important to recognize that it was Vitality that tried to force that play. They didn't need to try and catch Selfmade out of position. It was just that they saw an opportunity that they thought that they could win, but then they end up getting outplayed. They end up getting punished for that commitment, and now it's working out very heavily for SK's favor. And a lot of the pressure, I feel, now falls onto the bot lane of Vitality, because I think that Jactroll needs to leverage the strong engage tools and pick potential that this Rakan does have in order to try and find some picks onto SK, because SK's in a great position to keep this momentum going and almost set up a snowball.
Yeah, and for me, if we're looking at Jactroll to make a play, I think Vitality need to rethink their lane assignments, putting Attila and Jactroll in the mid lane where they can actually get priority over Crownshot and Dreams. Even though Crownshot is ahead in this matchup with that kill and the finished Essence Reaver on top of a BF sword, if you have, if you know you're at least even in numbers, the Xayah should be able to outpush in that matchup.
We'll see if Vitality can use that strength of the Xayah Rakan. We saw them use Xayah incredibly well against G2, getting 2v2 kills in the bottom lane, but I do think your eyes have to look towards Jenax here as well. Last week he had one great game and one pretty disappointing game on the Aatrox. Here he's having a very strong performance against Jiizuke, who's been on form.
Yeah, he definitely has here. Now, Jenax just picked up the package, and there's so much vision denial up in this topside river. They're going to look to push out this mid wave and then make a move over towards Vitality's top side of the map. That's why Mowgli is up here to try and protect the 2v2 of Attila and Jactroll.
You can see Vitality trying to use a little bit of vision control, but the control ward comes in from Selfmade up towards that red buff. SK will know that Vitality are preparing something, evil machinations in the eyes of Vitality. SK keeping track of the Vitality team.
You can even see the idea here with Sacre moving up through that river to see if maybe there was going to be a scuffle inside this middle lane or in this topside river. So SK consistently working on the same page here, bringing over Sacre whenever they're looking for this type of move.
So what I find quite interesting is we already talked... Ooh, fight!
What I find quite interesting is Selfmade going in for the fight. Mowgli kicks him away. Jactroll uses the quickness, and Attila is just around the corner. SK do have to back away, but they get a couple of ultimates for their troubles.
So what I was going to say was that we talked a little bit about lane assignments and how Jiizuke keeps getting sent mid, and typically it just makes more sense to have your stronger wave clear and duo mid lane at this point in the game, because it's much easier to clear that wave. And you'll notice how Jenax almost always has priority, so he always gets to move first, which means that there's a potential setup for a dive on a side. However, Vitality feel the need that if they just send Jiizuke top, then he's going to get dived and they're going to lose this tower. So they're in this situation where it feels like they're just trying to mitigate the early pressure that SK is generating, and they just want to minimize as many losses as possible. And I don't know if that strategy is the most effective unless they're relying on this idea of scaling and relying more on the later game.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be it, because what they're doing right now is just simply matching their opponents as opposed to ever trying to take any of their own moments to be on the offensive. And that's what happens when you send your duo to match, a duo that outpushes you up on this top side of the map that can play around their Rek'Sai a whole lot better. In a shorter lane, Attila can step forward on towards the wave to push it out. In the top lane, it's not as feasible.
SK able to force Vitality off that top lane tower, now have a 5,000 gold advantage, 17 minutes in. Remember, Vitality, this win would have basically locked them playoffs. In 99.9% of scenarios, they would have been going into those postseason games. But for now, SK were very much in the driver's seat in this game. They've had a good early to mid game. Now we'll see how they can progress that into the next portion of the match.
Well, SK, they're a bit of a weird team, because often they're not in this position at all. They lose lane, they fall behind. Selfmade is invisible before Jenax joined the roster. Perion was getting caught out a lot. The duo was having like solid performances, but very rarely carry performances. And like overall, it felt like that we saw no consistency or no opportunity for SK to get an early lead. But now, for the first time in a while, they have a very strong early game advantage. And the question is, how well can they push it? Because it feels like that their lane assignments are effective. They're utilizing this Lucian Yuumi that can consistently trade against pretty much any matchup that Vitality tried to throw at it. And they're also allocating their side lane pressure effectively. Jenax has TP, Sacre has TP, they can all collapse into the mid lane. There's no objectives for them to play around, so notice again, look at what Jenax is doing. He's pushed in mid, rotating up with his team. He's utilizing the members on the side of SK to be able to force and threaten this tower, and now the Rumble is coming down. He can use his ultimate, force this duo off the tower, and they can secure this objective with little answers from Vitality.
Very hard for Vitality to defend here as Jenax, Selfmade, and the rest of the SK crew group up towards mid. They don't use the equalizer for now as Jiizuke came across. Decide not to commit forward, but Jiizuke is going to be forced down towards the bottom side here. Selfmade looking for the flank. And look at Jactroll towards the top of it as well. He's dancing around Crownshot and Dreams, seeing perhaps if he can find the avenue to engage, but for the moment, won't find anything.
But you can see the trade-off in pressure, right? When SK bring 5 people to mid lane, they're the ones that are allowed to push. When they have to back up and pick up waves, that's where it gets harder.
Jactroll goes in with the quickness, but look at the final chapter. It will lock up Attila. It locks up Jactroll for a second. The root comes back with the blade caller, but the culling is used. There's the equalizer. And Vitality burn in the fire of hell. Sacre takes double, and it's too easy for SK.
Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Jiizuke was able to turn it around and get the solo kill onto Jenax. SK still went out big time, especially Sacre on that double kill, but Jiizuke isn't lying down easy.
And this was Vitality attempting to attack in their window. They knew that Jenax and Sacre were resetting to the side lanes, but they did not respect Sacre's ability to just TP into the mid fight and turn it around. Great utilization of the stopwatch from Crownshot to buy time for his team to join, to then allow them to turn this back in their favor. We're going to keep an eye out. Again, look at the setup here. Only the duo is mid lane, and while the jungler is hanging around, they have clear information as to where the rest of SK is. But with a good use of the stopwatch and Selfmade's arrival, along with the TP being channeled, they think they can just disengage and maybe get a top tower here. But the ultimate kills to allows SK to secure this mid tower, and then they walk away happy.
And we see down in this bottom lane play, even down a level here as Jiizuke, he used the Aftershock to eat all the cooldowns from Jenax. Specifically, the Q is a whole lot of damage coming through from him. He has to kite out while he waits for his spells to come up one more time, gets the magic damage shield, and the maximum heal on the low HP Jenax to turn that one around.
But also the denial of vision was so important there. Jiizuke flashing into the brush and not allowing Jenax to land that final auto attack was crucial in enabling that 1v1 to be turned around.
Yeah, also when you steal the Corki ultimate as Sylas, you get 7 of those charges. That's 7 free passive procs as well. So you're able to layer those down in an extended fight. You get a whole lot of bonus damage that a Corki just simply can't access.
What a strong performance so far by SK. 21 minutes in, 6,000 gold ahead. Probably their best early game, all split you have to feel. Have an Infinity Edge Essence Reaver finished on Crownshot now, Rapid Fire Cannon, Trinity Force on Jenax, and the Morello Leandries combo here for Sacre. SK will look to fight around objectives.
But for me, the more critical point is that Vitality's consistency. We talked about it, and like, can they maintain this high level of performance that they had last week coming into this week? And they were the ones that forced that play onto SK that ended up backfiring, and because of that, SK are now in the position that they're in. And did SK need to force that early game fight? Did they need to go for that opportunity? Well, you can debate for days, right? But at the end of the day, now, because of it, SK are in a situation where they can snowball this game and get a huge win over Vitality.
Yeah, and with a huge cooldown blown there from Attila, just 38 seconds before the Infernal Drake spawns. That's going to be a major blow here towards Vitality. Now, Cabochard does have a TP advantage over Sacre at the moment, but Jiizuke now the one out.
Sacre there with the Flame Spitter trying to burn Jiizuke down. Jactroll there to defend his mid laner just in time. Able to keep him safe, but as you say, 20 seconds left on the Infernal, and SK have all 5 members of their team around it.
Yeah, so for the last minute or so, SK have just been sacking resources in the top lane. They lose minions, they lose the tower. Also, they can be the first ones here to set up around the Drake because they don't have that TP to match the side of Cabochard. Now, it's past level 11 for Rumble, so that Equalizer is going to be cooking enemy targets, and with full control over the river, they can look to set it up and layer it down inside these tight chokes.
This is where SK is at their strongest. Vitality should be careful trying to force a fight, As you can see, SK and Vitality both grouped up as a 5 right now.
So Jactroll has the quickness and the flash if they want to go for this. All of SK grouping up as they try and get mid lane priority back, but Jactroll already low, equalizer solo. Oh! Death's Grasp pushed by 3, there's the counter equalizer with an equalizer over the road. SK going in, and already Jiizuke takes one, Dreams is down, but look at Sacre, he can just burn them all up. That Rumble is still very healthy. Cabochard trying to get in onto Crownshot, can't quite land it. Oh, he gets it! The Death's Grasp pulls it back even after he's fallen, and here goes Jiizuke going in, shut down. Vitality find a miracle of a fight.
Cabochard comes up huge right there with a 3-man pull into the rest of his team, down 5,000 gold even after the team fight. It was Cabochard that was able to turn everything around with just one ability.
This was a fight that SK should have won, but due to the immaculate performance from Cabochard, Vitality are the ones that come out on top. A much needed win, so let's have a look at the Iron Revenant Cabochard. Keep an eye on his positioning right now. This grapple into 3 members just chunks out Selfmade and Crownshot, along with the support almost immediately. So with Dreams down, notice that Jactroll and Attila are barely doing anything. This fight is basically 2 versus 5, as Cabochard and Jiizuke are able to clean this one up. Beautifully played from the solo laners. And Vitality much need that
damage. Holy moly, 3,951 coming out from Cabochard, 941 from Attila. As
2 versus 5.
It's all about Cabochard and Jiizuke. Cabo actually did more damage in that fight than expected on Mord when he played him just a few weeks ago in the entire game.
That's brutal.
It's brutal stuff. And we can see Vitality fighting back. They are still 4,000 gold behind. SK still have the lead in terms of pace of the game, in terms of where they are and how they can position. But Vitality have now shown us they can take team fights on their terms.
I think it's still a difficult situation for Vitality to be in, because that was like an ideal fight from the side of Vitality. And they need to find another one.
He's got flash, he's got quickness. Jactroll looking for it. Gonna go in, there's the quickness, but already they try and turn onto him. Dreams caught up, look at the damage coming out the final chapter, they locked up! That's not the fight you wanted! SK find everything they wanted, and Vitality were unable to find a connection.
And it looked like that was going to be another perfect fight for Vitality, but the Rakan engage fails, Mowgli flash fails, Cabochard doesn't find anyone, and the Rumble ultimate from Sacre melts everyone. They now have the Baron in their eyes, only Jiizuke and Attila are left. Screw that, Attila's gone, Jiizuke is the last man standing. Is he enough to stop this Baron?
Looks like it for the moment. They fear Jiizuke. He's done it so many times before in the LEC, come up clutch for his team, and right now he dissuaded SK from taking that Baron. But they'll be back and in greater numbers in the future. They'll get that vision control, they'll look for the Baron take. SK have had a very strong game so far, but can they close it out?
Well, the thing is, if they can keep turning around engages like this, they absolutely can. See, the flank looks good from Vitality, but again, they're down 5,000 gold at this point in the game, and they line up to be absolutely cooked by Sacre. He gets the ultimate, he overheats, he is just burning them alive here. So then Attila and Jiizuke, they just have to run for their lives.
What needs to happen is the Rakan ult has to land first, and then the Cabochard claw comes in afterwards. He used it early to grab Crownshot, but then he has no more tools to close the gap between him and everyone else. So this Mordekaiser is just slowly running after everyone, while the Rumble ultimate and the range from SK keeps it at arm's length.
It was also at a point in the game where literally every player had flash up except for Cabochard. Now bot lane, Sacre caught.
Pulled back with the Death Grasp, has the flash, will try and jump across the wall, put it in the Death Realm. Doesn't really have a way out here. Blast Cone used nicely there by Mowgli to stop Sacre from being able to get away. That equalizer's not going to do too much, and in the end, Sacre will fall, but SK have started up the Baron. Jiizuke there, Cabochard has teleport. Jactroll on the flank, has the quickness, looking for it. SK trying to burn it down, they'll take it. Can they get out alive? They'll jump towards the back of it, over towards the Crux. Jenax backing away. That's
oh no!
All three get away! All 4 of SK survive!
Those are SK biased Krugs right there, they just didn't attack the man!
That's because they weren't the ones that drew the aggro, my friend. That initial tick went straight towards Jactroll, which means that he was able to sneakily get out of harm's way. SK trade their top laner for the Baron. I say that's worth.
I do as well, Vedius, especially now that SK can use that Baron buff minions to push in these waves. The gold has been back and forth, swinging So both teams now in its 6k lead for SK. We'll see once again Sacre get caught out, just walks into no vision.
Yeah, he just scoops Sacre on back here now. The real hero of this play is right now Mowgli can't see Sacre, but Sacre also can't see the blast plant. So Mowgli just walks up to auto that and makes sure it's not an escape option here for Sacre before picking up the last hit.
Now we can see the Baron being kicked off with 4 members, or 3 members still towards the top side. They think that they can hold this off, but nobody actually commits from the side of Vitality. They don't actually try to force a fight, which means that they're able to dive out the back end of the pit. Jactroll aggroes the minions, and that first initial tick goes towards Jactroll, and it does not swap aggro, which means that they're able to get away with their lives.
Jactroll had used the Oracle's lens before he used the Q. He would have seen exactly where Selfmade was and could have Q'd him instead of the Crux. Now SK pushing up towards the top side. There's a Mountain Drake available if they want it, but for now I think they just want to utilize this Baron buff as much as possible. 2,000 gold off it so far. Crownshot steps straight in towards Cabochard. What are you doing, Crownshot? Straight into the death realm. Equalizer comes down. Selfmade trying to get him from the side here, but it's a 2v4 as Vitality collapse. Jiizuke on his way as well, and the rest of SK are not there in time. It's a double already for Cabochard. The final chapter is just way too late. You could have written an entire novel in the time it took Dreams and Jenax to get across, and now Vitality continue the chase. Teleport out. Oh, Attila goes in. Point cancelled. Vitality cancel the TP. Attila will die for it, and Jenax trying to survive. He'll take the double. He's healed up. The zoomies obliterate Mowgli. Kicks him in the face. Kicks him out of the game. Dreams falls as well, and Vitality get the X.
Vitality absolutely crushed that team fight, but SK just systematically ran it down right there. Crownshot has his E up, still gets caught out by this Mordekaiser in this Alienware replay. You see, doesn't react to it, doesn't see the Mordekaiser over the wall, then gets, punched out of the Death Realm. Then Selfmade enters, Sacre enters. Look where Jenax is at the start of this team fight. He is just not in here whatsoever. So even though he's able to turn it around and pick up kills on the backside, SK just kept sending more and more members in to die.
And this is where Jenax gets his hero moment. Look at the burst damage coming out from that Corki. The exhaust comes through as well onto Attila, which really helps mitigate a lot of the damage, but the heals by enough time, but then he just gets kicked in the face. If that damage wasn't there from Mowgli, he may have been able to turn that one around 2 versus 5, but unfortunately it was not enough. But now SK, they throw away the Baron. This should have been their game to cleanly close out, but Vitality have found a couple of really good fights. And on top of that, SK have made some crucial mistakes.
And this is the Vitality we've seen after they started 0-4. They have developed, they've grown, they have had that tenacity to fight back in games like this. And yes, SK have made mistakes. They have not had a clean game in any way, shape, or form. But Vitality's continue to show us the sort of form that took them to Worlds last year.
And it's Cabochard every time. The mid lane team fight, the fight right there starting to pick off on towards Crownshot was absolutely huge. Now, itemization-wise, 3 items on just about everyone here. Jiizuke just finished off the Rabadon's death cap, so he's going to do a whole lot of damage. But see how Vitality tried to fight. It's with Jactroll on the flank.
Deathsclass was just used. Mowgli and Jactroll on the flank. Looking for that connection. The Sonic Wave doesn't hit. SK disengage. They have a wave down towards the bottom lane, though, and they can use that to push in. There's a tower still standing for them. That will be the last outer turret gone.
Now, Vitality trying to find this flank is always going to be hard in the mid lane, where you do have an escape route. You can go either direction, the one they're not coming from. If SK funnel themselves into this bottom lane, and Vitality are able to clear away the vision that does see them coming, if they were to push forward, it could be absolute bad news for SK.
It looks like Jenax, for the time being, is trying to re-establish control over the side wave. And notice how Vitality will gain push over the mid lane, largely because of SK committing towards the bot side of the map. Next big objective, the Elder will be spawning in about 4 minutes time, Baron in about 1 minute 20. I don't expect any fights to happen before either of these are alive, which means that the next big fight will be around these huge objectives. And now the big debate is, which comp do we give the advantage to? Because you kind of look at it and, I mean, I'm not an expert on Mordekaiser, but my general experience has been the later the game you go, the harder he gets to pull off, because if he doesn't land his skill shots, it's very easy to kite him. But of course, if he lands the Death Realm, then it's very easy for him to stall out the likes of a lot of these carries.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in the past, very hard counter picks, a lot of these marksman types that build on hit, be able to cut through Mordekaiser, who builds a lot of HP, but not resistances. That's not as much of an option for SK in this type of game, even though Crownshot and Jenax both are very strong. But ultimately, what happens with Mordekaiser is all your abilities have a wind-up time on them, especially the CC coming off of your E. AoE, there's a lot of mobility on SK's side that they should be able to dodge out those key crucial spells with.
You can see Crownshot picking up a QSS as well to try and get out of that Death Realm. He's caught up in it. SK 6,000 or 5,500 gold lead as they now gesture towards the Baron, up in 9 seconds, but Vitality have to push in mid, and we use that time to get the vision control.
I think SK would love to try and find a fight in the next minute or so. Attila's losing his flash, Cabochard, Jiizuke all have flashes down, so it enables you, if you are specifically self-made here, to find the flash unburrow onto a priority target.
All right, Jiizuke is the player I want our fans to keep our eyes on. If he steals away that Rumble ultimate, that is going to be a game changer. Jactroll is on the flank. If he finds that good knockup, that could be the key to allow Vitality to go.
Battle lance drawn, you can hear Vitality saying we should fight this, we should go. Baron started, Jiizuke stolen away the Void Rush, but SK are pushing down mid, looking for the inhibitor tower. Maybe they just give up the Baron, they say, okay, we can force down mid. Jiizuke coming in from the side, Vitality still on the Baron, inhibitor tower falls, and SK, you have to think of just giving this one up. They go for the inhib now, maybe even looking for the final fight, they can push forward, they got a minion wave, Vitality, you need to get back in time, because right now SK are pushing. The Nexus tower is their target, double AD carry on the side, they'll take the first one, just about, and now SK will have to back away. Vitality with the Baron, trying to defend, Jiizuke going forward, the color hits him, down to half, Jactroll with the blow for Selfmade, a perfect block on Jactroll, and now the fight erupts. SK are taking down one, Jactroll and the Attila on the backline still surviving, and now it's 2 for 2 on either side. We'll see, can Vitality still defend this because SK want to push in?
Jenax is still alive and Attila is solo with 3 minions here. Remember, the Baron buff went to Vitality. SK do not have it. Vitality can clear the minions.
Cabochard's still alive, Death's Grasp pulling back, and as you say that, the minions are cleared away, but SK not done yet. They're looking for it. Jactroll, oh my god! That was disgusting amounts of damage.
The next minion wave has a super minion in it. 28 seconds on Jiizuke and Mowgli. SK, they think they win the 3v3. They're going to look for it right here and now.
No ult on Jactroll, no ult on Attila, and look at the damage once again onto the Xayah. Sacre there, his ult is not up yet, but the Nexus tower may be down already. Jactroll jumping in, he's done, and now SK take the Nexus tower, and they're looking for the win. Attila and Cabochard is all on you. Can you defend? Not quite. Cabochard burning away, but he goes into the stopwatch for a second. They're going forward. They're going to win the game. SK take it from Vitality.
What a call right there. Vitality had fully committed on towards the Baron. I thought they were just trading an inhibitor for that objective, but SK made the call. They said we can push straight down that mid lane. They knock out one Nexus turret on the first push and then wait. Knowing they win the 3v3, they wait for the super minions to reinforce them. They spent a whole minute inside the Vitality base and still took the win on that push.
Such an important win for SK as well. In order to make that race for playoffs alive for them, getting this win was so important. And for Vitality, it only makes things so much more competitive in the middle of the pack. 4 teams have already locked a spot in playoffs. There are still 2 spots remaining, and every team in Europe is hungry for it.
Vitality do not have an easy road from here. They have Fnatic tomorrow, Misfits, and then Schalke. Those are not easy games to win. Even the Misfits game could cause a challenge. SK, on the other hand, have Splice, they have XL, and they have Origin left. A couple of wins there. XL, Origin may be the team they'd be fighting for that 6th place spot. This could be incredible stuff at the end of our split.
I'll be honest, Medic, no one has an easy path anymore. Unless you're G2, it feels like that every team is beating everyone, and the possibility for upsets are extremely real. And SK, they had a fantastic early game. There were great opportunities for them to leverage that. And while they did make a couple of mistakes, in the end, that final decision was the correct one. I was doubting it, I didn't believe it, but SK made it work, they made it happen, and they found a much-needed win.
Yeah, I mean, their team fights were going to be always very hard to execute. The only real hard CC they had was the Equalizer or Rek'Sai knockup, if he has flash available. That is so crucial. They had the timer where it was up and ready. They were able to get it to turn around that fight around the inhibitor and just ultimately play very well in order to close that one out.
Yeah, as a Rakan player, I was watching Jactroll in that final fight, and when I saw Selfmade flash unburrow on him and stop him getting onto the backline, it was
not like this.
Incredible to watch. Great stuff from Selfmade. You have to remember, back in spring, he made his name on things like Sejuani Rek'Sai. He built Infinity Edges, for goodness sake. This game, he had an impeccable performance, and if you want to vote for any of the SK players and Kia player of the game, you can go over to @lolesports on Twitter. Sacre, Jenax, and Dreams are your options. I think they all had very good games. But for now, I think we're going to have another look at that final fight. And I'm going to ask you, only based on this final fight, guys, who do you think should get it? You've got Sacre, Dreams, and Jenax.
That's not how it works.
I know it's not.
I disagree.
It's a fun game. Play the game, Vedius.
That's not how it works, but I'm asking you to join in with the game.
I'll play it.
I don't like fun. I don't like fun. Let's check out the replay and let's see how this one played out. So I think
you're going to join my game.
I'm joining your
okay,
game.
never mind. We don't have the replay. We do have the replay. I was debated. Okay, so let's have a look at how this happens. First off, notice the positioning of Crownshot. He's on the front line and he's obviously the focus for Vitality. But then the knockup comes in from Selfmade onto only a single member, but the follow-up CC from the Yuumi was so important in order to turn this fight around.
And the real hero comes at the end here, and that's why I gotta say, in this fight, Jenax is the MVP. Look at the abilities he's able to land here to just chunk out a Jactroll right there. Boom, auto attack. That wasn't really an ability, but then he does the same thing on towards Attila and dodges away from the engage of Jactroll. Jactroll, no flash, no quickness, so this isn't the hardest play to make, but he is able to get away from that sort of fake out maneuver where he dashes over towards Cabochard to try and set up for the range on the W knockup.
I was very impressed with how Jenax played this game. Remember that he is very new to the roster, and to have a performance like this after only 2 weeks of play definitely speaks highly of the development he's already making in a very short space of time.
Yeah, and it was our first time seeing him on something that wasn't the Aatrox. So he was taking a primary carry role within his team after Vitality banned that pick away from him. Well, it seems like Corki is definitely very much in his wheelhouse and something we're going to see from him again.
And you can see G2, Fnatic, Splyce, and Schalke locked in top in the playoffs right now. Vitality not yet locked in 99.9% of scenarios. They would have been if they won, but they lost. And now they have to fight against Origin and Rogue and the rest of the squad for that final few places.
I mean, the scariest thing for Vitality is we were asking, could they get 4th place off of this game? Could they actually beat out Schalke? It is looking significantly less likely. And if you remember Spring Split, Fnatic got 2nd place and then chose to play against a 5th place Vitality. If Vitality had gotten 4th place, they would have not gotten picked. They might have made it to round 2. The same thing could happen this split.
We'll see if it does. We'll soon hear as well from Selfmade before Fnatic take on XL eSports. We'll see you after this break.